What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Ohio State post-game of Yo ND Raps. I am joined by Mike, as always, and Frank, who we just got back from the road trip to South Bend. So, Frank, it's good seeing you here. I'm sure you enjoyed your experience. We do have a lot to talk about, so I'm just going to keep it moving here. We're going to start just with the predictions here. So, obviously, we all know the final score last night, 17-14, the Buckeyes. They did not cover. The line when Mike and I filmed was 3.5. I think it went down a little bit before kickoff, but regardless, we did it at 3.5. Mike, you picked Notre Dame to cover, which they did. They didn't win, but they covered. Mike is 5-0 against the spread with Notre Dame games. That's ridiculous. I picked Ohio State to win, but to cover, so I lost. I am now 3-2 with Irish. Frank, you remain at 3-1 because you can't send a text back with picks.
I,
Then
I
we move.
I was picking Notre Dame by double digits, so just put this as an L for me.
No, you didn't officially make it, so you're 3-1. Your percentage survives. As far as our locks of non-ND games, again, Frank, you didn't send me a text with it, so you're still 3-0. So you're 6-1 overall. I had the Knowles -2.5. They of course covered. That bumps me to 4-1. I am now 7-3 on the year, which is pretty good until you get to Mike. Mike picked Washington. They were given 20.5 at Cal. They covered it in like the first 10 minutes. So, Mike, you moved to 4-1 there. Mike, you are 9-1 against the spread on here. To our few viewers, I don't know what more we need to do for you before you start making money, listening and telling people about it, because we are making money right now. So, Mike 9-1, I'm 7-3, Frank 6-1. Those are ridiculous numbers. Those are ridiculous. So we got that out of the way. Let's move on to the turd that was last night. Of course, Ohio State scored with 1 second left to take the game 17-14. I'm going to try and keep us on track here, but I'm just going to start with the game. So, what'd you guys think? The first drive Notre Dame has, they go down the field. What a phenomenal drive until the fourth down. So I have a few questions. Did you like the fourth down call? And number two, the ruling on the field, correct me if I'm wrong, was a first down. Frank, I know you don't have this when we watch it on TV, Mike and I. What camera angle did they use to overturn that? Mike, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I mean, yes, I liked the call. You had to be aggressive. He was aggressive. He said he would be aggressive throughout the game. Yes, you try and get that. I actually did like the play call. They were having trouble between the tackles at that point. So Hartman made a good decision. No one was there. Could he have
Yeah.
made
Well,
sure he got it? Yeah. Um, the ruling on the field was a first down. It was very close. When you look at those replays, it just feels like he was short, but I don't know how you overturn it unless they had an angle that NBC didn't show us.
Frank, when you were at the stadium, did they show there was no angle just straight down. Everything was from an angle. You could not tell except that it was really close. I didn't know if they showed anything different on the stadium.
Well, no. And the first thing is because for some reason Notre Dame Stadium has problems showing any type of replays, whether it's targeting or whatever. Which befuddles me because they have about 9,000 cameras in that venue. But I thought it was one of those calls where had they called him short, there wasn't going to be enough on replay to overturn it. The camera angles they showed us, and there was only two, was inconclusive. You couldn't make a determination out of it. So I was a little surprised when it got overturned, and I attribute it to the fact that, maybe there's a camera angle on TV that we weren't being shown in the stadium.
Yeah, fair enough, and there wasn't. It was the exact same thing for us
But
if they would have called it short.
but here's
He
my
was,
point.
he was short.
So, but here's my point with this. I agree with the decision to go for it and be aggressive. I think the play call sucked. All right. If Ian Book's your quarterback, that play works because he's more of a natural runner. Uh, uh, I mean, I understand you're trying to do something different. You know me, I'm conservative. I'm wedging that son of a bitch, and I'm getting a yard, and we're moving on with life.
But
Um,
we're all in agreement the fourth down going for it was
you've got to
correct.
score touchdowns to win that game. It's
Agreed.
all. I disagreed with the play call.
I
You
agree with that.
you need to get a yard. That's what your program is predicated on. And this is a game where you got to have it. You wedge it, you go forward, and you trust the people in front of you. And here's the other thing: even if that comes down to a replay, that's one of them things. It becomes a rugby scrum. So let's just go get the first down, and let's not try to outsmart ourselves. I mean, if you have a natural runner, then yeah, I get that play call. Hartman runs to keep plays alive downfield. And I kind of contrast that with somebody like Ian Book, who was, when he got outside of a pocket,
He was
he
going
was
for it.
looking to run, and he was more of a natural athlete on the corner.
So with that said, our last episode, Mike, I posed a question to you about our kicker, Schrader, and if he is good. I'm going to ask that same question to you today. Do you feel he is good?
He's not bad.
Dude, you can't miss that field goal.
You can't miss that field
You can't miss that field goal in this game. You can't miss it. Frank, what are your thoughts on Schrader?
He's inconsistent. The kid's got a big leg. There's no doubt about that. But he's inconsistent. And what I go to is, okay, you missed the field goal, but this is twice now. He did this against Middle Tennessee State, where he'll just miss a kickoff and he kicks a worm burner. And he did one last night that Ohio State was able to return, and they got set up at the 35-yard line. And I'm thinking to myself, for Christ's sakes, the rules are set up. All you got to do is kick the ball to the end zone, because the math tells teams to down the ball, so you take it at the 25. It's a simple proposition. We don't need to be kicking worm burners down the field because we don't cover kicks. And it happened against Tennessee State. It happened last night, and it hurt us. You can't do that against good teams. That 10-yard field position means a lot.
It's huge, especially versus Ohio State. So after that initial drive, we get stuffed there in the 4th and 1. I mean, what a great drive it was, and what a kick in the gut to not get any points out of that. The first thing I said was, like, defense, please get off the field. And my God, what a stand right after 3 and out. I mean, Ohio State had all the momentum at that point, and the defense shut it down. We're going to touch on a few other instances here, but I was pretty pleased with the defense. I don't know how you guys felt about it. I'm just saying overall. I'm not saying they didn't have their moments where they were terrible, but overall.
Ben Morrison
is legit.
Is a dog.
That missed tackle hurt, though, out in the flat.
Okay, he was a glove on Marvin Harrison.
Love him. He played a great game. I am nitpicking, and you absolutely, Mike. He was unbelievable. I mean, he helped his draft stock out last night, and props to Harrison. That dude's just a baller too. That's a dog out there. And Morrison.
They didn't have to double him in the second half. They let Morrison ride with him, and that was huge.
And he was also up against the much bigger Julian Fleming and playing real well versus Fleming as well. Fleming's obviously not as quick as Morrison, but Fleming's a lot. He's a body if you're Morrison. So yeah,
our corners were dominant last night. Dominant. They got hurt in the slot, where safeties had to pick somebody up. They picked on the kid from Oklahoma State. They went at him.
Thomas Harper.
And he made plays, but he was the weak link.
Or where we blitz our slot coverage and leave the slot wide open.
We're going to touch on that. Just hang on. We're going to touch on that. So one other thing, Mike and I discussed what we were fearing the most in this game on the Notre Dame side. Mike, you mentioned the offensive line. I mentioned the defensive line just because I didn't want to not be able to rush, without throwing the house there. That goal line stand Notre Dame had was phenomenal. The D-line, when they had 11 players on the field, the D-line played great. So, I mean, what did you guys think about the stand, the D-line, and the offensive line for that matter overall?
Notre Dame's offensive line was dominant in that game against one of the best front sevens in college football. And they have depth. Notre Dame wore them down. defensively, Jean-Baptiste was a monster.
He was
He
possessed
affected so many plays. They won the line of scrimmage. I
on
think
both sides.
I think Ohio State had like 127 yards rushing,
61 on one play.
61 on one play. It counts. It counts. It was a bad angle by a linebacker. And what's
Was
his
that
name?
holding?
I know the holding. They're so worried about his ankle. He was holding
Two
Cam Hart.
hands
Yeah.
holding Cam Hart. Two hands holding him, and then drug him down with him.
I'm not going to get into the refs because they let both sides play.
That was
I,
a blatant, and it cost Notre Dame points. That was a
it was a
huge.
big call. Yeah. Um, Notre Dame won the line of scrimmage, and I don't think it was close,
Frank, what do you think?
especially in the second half.
Yeah, they were leaning on him in the second half, and we'll get to that. That's something I want to bring up. But go ahead, Frank.
So, a couple things to Mike's point about the offensive line play. Notre Dame went for $123 in the second half, and there were times in that third and fourth quarter, Ohio State had 8 guys in the box,
Hmm.
and they did something. I mean, first of all, I don't know if you saw it. The first half, they were running out of the T formation,
Hmm.
which I hadn't seen since Holt's coach there. But the other thing they did last night is they ran a lot of 2-back sets with the tight end as a lead blocker, and they ISO blocked. There was one play, Davis Sherwood had an ISO block on somebody, and I mean, you could not have drawn that play up any better. So, which the offensive line, yeah, played well enough to win. It's going back to the defense. We're 5 games in. I think we all knew Notre Dame's defense kind of had some limitations. The sack numbers aren't there. I still get frustrated because their blitzes never get home. I know they're changing the narrative about havoc rate or whatever the hell that made up shit is. It's every time we blitz, it seems like it's ineffective. But that being said, this loss is purely pinned on the offense. If you'd have told me before this game that we were going to go out and hold Ohio State to 17 points, I'd have felt really damn good about things.
Yeah, absolutely.
The problem is, and I know it's tough to compare and contrast, the problem is this is another big game, regardless of where it was played, where we can't even score 20 points. And that's squarely on the offense. I mean, this is 2 years in a row we've played Ohio State. Now, this is a different Ohio State than last year when they had Stroud. But you look at the last 2 years we've played Ohio State. Aggregately, they scored
38 points.
38 points against us. And I don't check the numbers yet. This might be the lowest offensive output since Ryan Day's been there, or among the lowest. It's not too often they're held below 20. So the defense, despite its limitations, that was a superlative effort against a team with a lot of dudes that are going to play on Sunday. And the problem is, if you keep giving them possessions, at some point, they're going to be good enough to capitalize on it. And that's what transpired last night. And that is on the offense.
I agree with everything you said about the offense. At the end of the day, the offense didn't score enough to win. It sounds cliche, but it's the truth. The defense did everything you could ask for. I will say this about the offense that's, I think, a trend you guys might know better than me. But this year, I feel like Notre Dame's offense answers touchdowns. Ohio State went up 10-0 off that 61-yard run, had all the momentum in the world. The next drive, Notre Dame goes 13 plays, 75 yards, 7.5 minutes, and they make it 10-7. I do like that trend. The problem is, you get stuffed on 2 4th and 1s. So, you have that going for you as well.
But here's
Go, Mike.
Here's the damning trend with the defense. They give up points at the end of halves, and they did it both halves this game.
yeah.
A field goal right before the half and a touchdown on the last play. That's the norm with them.
Yeah, they're consistent with that. They are consistent with that. Um, not to get too far off topic here, but when Notre Dame scored to take the lead and went up 14-10, you watch that drive, and Frank, you touched on it. In the second half, Notre Dame just started leaning on them. And that last drive, Notre Dame really
96 yards.
96 yards. They did nothing special. They pounded it between the tackles. It was great. And I couldn't help but think, where would Notre Dame be during this game with Tommy Rees as the OC and Brian Kelly as the head coach? Because there's no way that he is sticking to that. So I know they took the loss, and a lot of people are like, nothing's changed. All right, yeah, at the end of the day, nothing changed, but that was Notre Dame's getting held down at their 4-yard line if Tommy Rees is the OC there. I mean, Notre Dame kept it between the tackles. They were getting stuffed early, and it paid off.
Stuff did change. I disagree with that. They found new ways to lose.
I'm saying the end result is the same. It's just how we got there is a little bit different. I do feel that there's way more of an effort to stay between the tackles, which we're going to touch on the last drive, because that's when you're like, why is Audric Estime out, and why are we not running the football?
I've watched that multiple times, that last drive. I have zero problem with their play calling. That drive got blown up.
I disagree.
When Hartman misread the read option.
Okay,
That play's there. The play is there. It's 7 yards if he just gives it to him.
Go ahead, Frank.
So they held Ohio State on downs because Ohio State took a page out of other people's.
Tommy Rees.
It was Tommy Rees. I'm like, is Tommy Rees in their headset?
I don't know, but I was like, that's a break.
Gift.
So now we take over at our 11-yard line. There's 4 minutes, 15 seconds left. At the very least, you got to get field position here to dig it out. So the first play, they're aggressive. They throw the ball. The play gets extended. They hit Flores for a first down. Boom. Now we're out at like the 23-yard line. So now we got a little bit of field position. We got a fresh set of downs. The
clock running.
Now they go right back to Estime, and boom, he hit you for 10 yards. And here's my problem with this. Everybody in that house knew that ball's going to Estime on that second series. And he's still getting 10 yards because, to Mike's point, our offensive line is starting to move people at that point. We have problems with people in space and with line games and stuff, but you put people head up on our guys, and you're going to have a long day because they're going to move you. So now Estime rips off another 12 yards or whatever it was, and we're out at the 34-yard line, the 35-yard line, 1st and 10, and the clock is still running. Ohio State has 2 timeouts left, if I remember correctly?
Yep.
Okay, so now, in my mind, this is a math problem.
Mm-hmm.
All right? So one more first down wins the game, and I get that. But if you can't get the first down, the secondary objective is you have to force them to burn those timeouts. Calling a pass play on first down. Dude, at this point,
it wasn't a pass play.
It wasn't first down.
I don't know what the hell it was. I know this. I know it lost 5 freaking yards. And
it was read option, and it was there.
And all they had to do was turn around and hand the ball off to Estime and take 2 yards, go to 2nd and 8, make Ohio State take a timeout. Hand the ball off to Estime again, get a yard, get 2 yards, make Ohio State take that second timeout. 3rd down, we're going to do it again, and now the clock's running before we punt, and Ohio State has no timeouts, and every yard matters. Did we not get a procedure penalty on that punt, too, that backed us up another 5 yards?
Yep.
So with the first down play losing 5 yards and the procedure, we lose 10 yards of field position, and we allowed Ohio State to keep a timeout in their pocket which became critical on the grounding call. Dude, that can't happen.
I'm not.
Look, if you have to punt the ball and Ohio State goes down the field and they beat you with no timeouts, tip of the cap to Kyle McCord and Ohio State, because that's a hell of a drive. I don't care how good you are. There's guys in the NFL that don't do that on Sunday. But you leave a team with a timeout in their pocket with as explosive as they are, you're leaving the door open. And that's exactly what we did.
Go
That's
ahead, Mike.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying there's, I've read on the internet there's all this backlash about Notre Dame's final possession there. It's not that bad. Hartman made a poor decision and they lost 5 yards and it put them at 2nd and 15.
Well, can I interrupt you?
And
Why are
they,
you saying Hartman made a bad decision? It looked like the backs were confused and Hartman had to eat it because his backs. By the way, why is Estime out and you have first-year guys in there? Why?
it was
Why?
Jabrian Payne and he had a monster football game.
I'm not, Mike, I'm not arguing that, but the drive before, Notre Dame literally spoon-fed Estime. They had no answer. And 2 plays before, like Frank said, everyone there knew Estime was getting it. They
Again,
ran it for a first down.
I am not disagreeing with you guys. Let
Sounds
that
like
be
you
known.
are.
I'm saying the backlash regarding this isn't warranted. They got stuck. They blew up a play. It's as if an offensive lineman missed his block. It's the same thing. They got set in 2nd and 15, and
Run the ball.
They came out. They threw a screen, and the kid made an unbelievable play.
But why are you giving them the
Why
chance to do that?
run the goddamn ball.
I hear you. I'm just saying it wasn't like Tommy Rees calling these plays, which I think is what people are trying to make the connection here.
No, I understand it was a conservative pass call. They shouldn't have been throwing. Just burn the timeouts and punt.
I'm not disagreeing with you. The backlash is overdone. Is all I'm saying.
I disagree. I think it's
But
totally warranted.
thing with the 2nd and 15 call, everybody in the place knew they weren't going to go downfield with the football. You're going to dump it off. You're going to go to a screen game or something like that, or a tunnel screen. Whatever pass play. Honestly, that 2nd and 15. I said to Dad, I said they're going to have to throw the football on one of these downs, and it's going to bite us in the ass, because if that ball touches the ground, we're leaving Ohio State with the timeout in their pocket. And sure enough, that's what happened.
Dude, I said it here. It was obvious. I'm like, what are we doing?
Predictable. I know it's overly conservative, but 1st and 10, you got a back who barely touched the ball in the 3rd quarter. He only carried 14 times for the game. I can only assume that you were keeping him fresh for the 4th quarter, unless he was nicked up and we didn't hear about it. But here's the thing. 3 times in the middle of the line, and let Ohio State have to contend with having to bring him to the ground, because even if there's no blocking, he's going to get 2 yards. Because let's not forget what we said earlier. All of us seem to be in pretty good agreement. Notre Dame's offensive line had the upper hand at that point, running against a heavy box. All the numbers are in your favor. Now, you want that 3rd first down, but dude, barring anything else, make them burn the timeouts and bleed every second of play clock off in the event you have to give it back to them. We failed to do that, on top of the fact that our offense, which was supposed to be an upgrade over last year, once again, in a big game, only generated 14 points.
There are a lot. That play calling, when you look at what lost this game, that final possession for Notre Dame is not in the top 5 of plays that lost this game.
What
It's
is?
not.
Oh,
Number one, I don't
Yeah,
want to call out players, but that dropped interception, when that happened, I turned to Chris and I was like, there, Frank, it's in his hands.
I
Both
know.
of them. 2 times. The one in the end zone, he had both hands on.
Yes, the freak play where
Stover.
Tight end. Man, you that can't happen.
Who's a load, by the way?
Oh yeah, he's a beast.
That
Yeah, but
That was a duck. Somebody's got to go get it.
and it was tipped. You could have hit Stover with
Yeah,
no PI.
Yeah.
but Mike, here's another. And I'm looking
10
through.
players on the field, the final 2 plays.
Well, hold on. We're gonna get to it.
Here's
Like,
here's the other. I was looking over the stats when I got home this morning. Here's the other thing that stands out about last night, and this is in direct contrast to Ohio State. Our 3 starting wide receivers combined had 3 catches for the game.
mhm.
Dude, you have got to do better than that.
Yes.
You have to.
They were locked down.
So
Hartman had time.
my
yeah.
point. So my point to this is that it became apparent through the course of the game that our wide receivers weren't going to be able to stretch the field. Our biggest downfield threat all night was
Rico Flores.
was Evans. He had 7 catches.
Yeah.
So you get to the end of the game, and we're going back now to this 4-minute offense. So you lose 5 on first down, which was a shit play call to begin with. I'll go to my grave belief.
It wasn't the best. They
Just
didn't
put
execute.
Estime in.
That's as bad a play call as Buckner's interception last year in South Carolina.
Not even close.
Not even close.
Not even close.
Yeah.
That call by Tommy Reese was the worst offensive call I've ever seen in my life.
So this cost you the game. This first down play cost you.
No, it didn't.
Because you're 2nd and 15, and now you're faced with the proposition of we still got to try to get this first down, and that's more important than making Ohio State burn that last time out. And what do? Well, we all know our wide receivers aren't making plays downfield, so if we throw the ball, it's going to be a check down to a running back, or it's going to be a tunnel screen, or it's going to be something close to the line of scrimmage. We're not going to drop back the pass necessarily in a traditional 5 or 7 step drop because we don't want to take another negative play. The point to the whole thing is we had the upper hand right there, and we did not hold serve. And shame on the offense, because that was the nail in the coffin. And in addition to the missed scoring opportunities earlier in the game and our wide receivers not getting more involved, that you're still squeaking by if you make Ohio State burn their timeouts, as we saw in their last drive. They ran their last drive. Listen to this. Their last drive. 15 plays, their last drive, in 1:26 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So we beat that to death. Let's move on here. Al Golden. We just gave props to the D because they didn't give up a ton of points, but I feel like he just when the rubber meets the road, he's gonna make a terrible call.
Yep.
He did it versus Ohio State last year with that double safety blitz at the end of the third quarter when Notre Dame still had the lead. What horrible call!
Yeah.
And that Benjamin Morrison corner blitz, and then there's no one there to cover. No one. What was the plan there?
It was a slot blitz, and they left.
Yes.
And that play happened right in front of me.
40 yards.
Xavier Johnson's in the slot, who is rarely used in their offense. And as soon as that ball snapped, they brought the slot pressure, and he comes looping around. McCord already saw that play open up before he even got to the top of his drop back and already knew where he was going with the ball, because literally 3 steps, Johnson's wide open. There's nobody within 10 yards of him.
I just don't understand how you can make that call.
Their touchdown drive to go up 10-0. They were plodding along. They get to midfield, and Notre Dame starts blitzing. Well, blitzing this kid didn't work. He's comfortable with the blitz. He gets rid of the football.
We don't.
If you stand there and make him think, he messes up. And the minute 3 straight plays we blitzed, and it was 15 yards a pop.
Who was it that was at linebacker on that 61-yard run? Bertrand that took that
It
angle.
was horrible. It was terrible.
I'm like,
Our
what?
linebackers were coming.
Bro, that was horrid. He just
Yeah.
ran straight. I'm
Into a
like,
lineman. He found a lineman.
and that was it.
So
The play was supposed to go inside,
here's
and
the
that kid kicked it out. But
it
Well, the
looked
holding on Cam Hart helped.
yeah,
it looked like pre-snap Notre Dame was out of position because as soon as the ball snapped and Henderson pressed the line of scrimmage, everybody collapses inside the tackle box, and he kicks it out off tackle. That alley was open before he even got to the line of scrimmage, and you could see it in real time. Now, I didn't necessarily see a blatant hold by Harrison, and again,
it's blatant.
the refs were letting them play.
Both hands, Frank.
But
Dude, this one's bad.
but that play is
He was
so,
like, his hands were up hard.
But here's the point to it. Our linebackers are there's a deficiency there, but this defense is solid enough to win games with. What I keep coming back to, it's easy to go to the 10-man on the field that they could add 20 people at the line of scrimmage.
No way. They don't score. The guy that was missing was the tackle they ran at, and they barely got in.
Frank,
point,
he almost got held. When I saw the replay, I thought maybe his right knee was down before the ball closed.
It was
Frank,
an unbelievable run.
And here's the other thing. It was 2 plays after a timeout. And then Freeman says, we didn't want to take the penalty.
well, it's
What? You're at the 1-yard line with 3 seconds left.
You
dude.
could have run him on the field after the first play, the incomplete. Why didn't you run him on the field?
So
here's my point. None of that matters because if they don't have any timeouts at the beginning of that drive,
but they did, so it does matter. It
Yeah,
does
it does
matter. They
matter.
did.
the intentional grounding in that series effectively ends the game because it would have necessitated a 10-second runoff. And
It
now
should have ended the game anyway.
No, because now you're
It was
looking
3rd and 19
you're looking at 3rd and 19 from the
with
20
5 seconds left.
with 5 seconds left.
I
And we
get it,
rushed
Frank.
3.
Well, listen.
That's
when I
fine.
first,
But
That's not fine. That's bad.
Yeah.
That's like his blitz. His prevent and his blitz package are doomsday.
I mean, I would have preferred to run your base defense, but the thinking is you're keeping everything in front of you. What I would have liked to have seen is keep everything in front of the sticks because it's 3rd and 19 for Christ's sakes. Just tackle the guy before the first down line. And even though the clock stops to set the chains, it's running then when you mark it. Don't give up the first down on 3rd and 19. Force them into a 4th down at least. And we didn't do that.
Their last drive, that 15-play drive, the defense puckered.
yeah, 3rd and 10, 4th and 7, 3rd and
Repeatedly
19.
puckered.
Golden is showing a track record of collapsing when they need stops.
Yeah.
They play good for 58 minutes, and then it's just he doesn't know how to finish.
Here's the other piece of this. Last night, Ohio State, and I didn't realize this because it didn't seem like it with the flow of the game. Because if you look at the numbers as that game progressed and you look at the final stats, it was a very pedestrian effort by Ohio State. But the one thing that stands out, they were 10 of 17 on 3rd down last night.
Yeah.
That is a huge freaking number in a game of that magnitude.
And long 3rd downs. 3rd and long. They converted.
So
All
here's
night.
something. A lot of people, obviously, Mike, you mentioned it. Like people are like trying to pinpoint this on one play or one player. This is DJ Brown or whatever. I want to see what you guys feel. I feel 100% the coaching lost this game. Just
100%.
100%.
100%.
OC, DC, and head coach, all of them had their hands in losing this game.
Yes.
Inexcusable.
The reason I'm so irritated about this game, more so than Brian Kelly was just inept.
We wouldn't have been close.
But these players last night played their hearts out everywhere, every play for 60 minutes. Like that was a monumental effort, and you took that from them because you didn't dot your I's and cross your T's.
Bonehead stuff. Bonehead
the
stuff.
and the other piece to this was it's this was a beatable Ohio State team.
Yes.
Like they're going to get better by the end of the year because we all know they have talent and they got dudes. But this was a beatable Ohio State team, and you were up against a quarterback making his first true road start, and it was a pretty active and engaged stadium last night. And you got to give kudos to Kyle McCord because he came through and made plays when he had to. I mean,
Yep.
that last drive, I think I was reading the stats. He was 5 of 12 passing. Well, those 5 completions, every single one of them were money down catches.
And
And he delivered
daggers.
football. I mean, but the point to the matter is, and I agree with you guys over the coaching. The point to the matter is, Ohio State put their kids in a position to win better than Notre Dame's coaching staff did with their kids.
1,000% agree.
Yeah, this is on the coaching staff, and just like in 2010 where BK lost the Tulsa game, I was like, all right, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Your first year, whatever, I got you.
There's
I'm trying to be this way with Kelly, or excuse me, with Freeman, but it's year 2, and that there were some pretty basic things they messed up. The 10 men on the field after a timeout for 2 plays, and then you know it and don't go off sides on the last play of the game, and you give up what, a foot?
And they ran to
Right through it,
where the guy was missing.
and he
And he
still
still barely got in.
yep, joke,
and
horrible.
there's a distinction here. And Mike, I didn't realize you texted me at 2:46 this morning. I was
I
driving.
saw that this morning too. I'm like, Mike's having.
I think
I was drinking whiskey and rewatching the last 7 minutes of the game.
Why?
I thought that, and
I was prepping for this.
the only reason that text wasn't longer is I think I finally know how many characters put in a text, and you just got cut off.
I was fired up.
Like 2 paragraphs deep. But the point to the matter is, and look, Brian Kelly's gone. I don't think a whole lot about him, but here's the difference. Brian Kelly came to Notre Dame as an experienced coach and had won a championship at lower divisions. So to compare where Marcus Freeman's at right now with whatever Brian Kelly did or do, I don't know that that's a fair comparison. Look, you need to be honest with this. Like it or love it or believe it or not, there is still some on-the-job training here going on with Marcus. And I'm not upset by that. What I'm disappointed about is if that's going to be the case, I'm not completely convinced that his coaching staff is giving him all the support that he needs for a head coach. You know what I mean? And I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, you look at Alabama, right? You look at the struggles they're having. Nick Saban's dominant personality down there. He knows how to win. He's done it. He's dealt with this before. And I'll even say this. Alabama's going to figure their stuff out. They're going to struggle this year, but they're going to figure it out because Saban's been there before and done that. And he will get coaches in there to get it fixed. If they're not doing it now, that'll happen. Notre Dame doesn't. I'm not convinced that their coaching staff is the perfect complement to Marcus Freeman and filling in maybe some of the perceived gaps in his coaching abilities. I like Freeman. I like the energy he brings. The kids play for him. He's going to recruit, but there's going to be some things like this where you're going to get hurt.
Go ahead, Mike.
I hear what you're saying. To me, you're describing kind of 2 different scenarios. Yeah, Nick Saban he's the man, and he has all of that experience to realize, yeah, my coaching my coaching staff, this is what I need. Freeman doesn't have that. I'll give you that. But the errors last night
We're 101.
were Pop Warner
Yes.
type errors. And that's concerning.
Easy stuff, Frank. 2 plays with 10 guys on the field, and you knew it on the second one, which was the game. And then you elect not to go off sides.
But my point is how much of that is directly Marcus Freeman, and how much of this is we're constantly running all these sub packages and doing these substitutions.
But you knew before the snap of the last play, and you let it play out.
Yeah.
He knew that.
Get your goal line defense in there.
He says he knew that. He might be the antithesis of Kelly and just taking the heat.
And that's all we can go by. That's all we can go by. And I will say this: Freeman, for how new he is such a professional compared to Kelly, who trashes all of his people because of his dumb mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, and you're right, Mike. I thought about that. We don't know what Freeman truly knew, how it panned out, and he did bite the bullet afterwards. So props to him there. And I obviously we're all rooting for him. Obviously we like him, but someone needs to be held accountable for that. That was, Mike, as you said, that was some JV Pop Warner football 101. I don't claim to be an expert, but even I would have, jump off sides. We need an 11th guy here. They're clearly going to run. You knew they were running.
Yeah.
Here's the other piece of this. To whatever extent that Notre Dame's coaching staff is culpable here, and to whatever, excuse me, and to whatever extent it's Marcus Freeman's directly responsible, here's going to be the tale of the tape. You could very easily have an 8-4 regular season, or go 11-1.
Mm-hmm.
And the future and our confidence in this coaching staff is going to be determined by how does Notre Dame respond next week, because Duke's pulling out all the stops, and that's a formidable opponent, and we emptied the proverbial emotional gas tank here last night. And then you got to make a road trip to Louisville, which isn't going to be easy. And then you got to turn around and you got to play USC. And at this point, I don't think we can beat USC.
Why?
And
I disagree with it. Yeah.
Because
I think Ohio State waxes USC.
No, not right now, today.
Right now.
By the end of the season,
USC doesn't play defense.
At all.
USC doesn't play defense, but here's the problem with them. Is you're going to get in a game where you're going to have to outscore somebody. I thought it was going to be last night. But to expect Notre Dame's defense to replicate that, a similar effort as last night against USC, I think is asking a little bit too much, because USC's quarterback is light years above where Kyle McCord is right now. That kid, it's almost unfair having.
But Frank, that's it. Compared to USC, that's it. Ohio State owns them everywhere else, every other position, the other 21 positions. Ohio State.
Not at wide receiver and running back.
You don't think Ohio State has better wide receivers and running backs than USC?
Dude, USC has some talent at wide receiver.
Frank, it's
not Ohio State.
And they got a quarterback that throws them over.
You got the quarterback. That's it.
But
I'm taking Ohio State at every position.
Ohio State's defense is legit. They
are. And they are. And that is the difference between them and USC. Ohio State's defense probably going to be the best defense we face this year.
It easily will.
There's no doubt about that. I mean, you could see their sideline to sideline speed last night is amazing. And Sawyer and that JT, whatever his last name is, those dudes are handfuls.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, but the point I'm making is that out of the 3 games, when I was looking at Notre Dame's schedule this year, to me, you looked at their 3 power games. It's Ohio State, USC, Clemson down there. Ohio State was the easiest game to win because of the time when you were catching them. Because Ohio State in November, I think, is going to be a much better team because McCord's going to keep seeing snaps. He's going to be a better quarterback than he is now. You had an opportunity last night to catch Ohio State, maybe not at their peak powers, and you squandered it. But you got to play a good Duke team on the road. You got to play a respectable opponent in Louisville on the road. And then you got to turn around and you got to face an offensive juggernaut in Caleb Williams and USC. And that's a game where you're absolutely going to have to score 35 points to stay in that game. Because for Notre Dame's defense, for you to expect Notre Dame's defense to come out and hold them to 3 or 4 touchdowns might be overly optimistic.
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to happen. I'm saying
so
they're going to score a lot on USC.
Well, listen, this isn't a USC preview.
Yeah.
Not. My point to this whole
But we're talking about USC a lot now, and we don't need to be.
No, my point to this whole ramble is this, is we're talking about the coaching staff and what we think of Marcus Freeman, and I think these next 7-8 games, because they're looking at going 9-4 again. And they could be, and they're going to be a good team if they go 9-4. But they got 3 good power games left if you include Duke. And when you're looking at improvement from year 1 to year 2, this is going to tell the tales how they respond to this loss.
I think what's going to tell the tale is the next time we're in a situation where a coach has to make a decision, and it's at the end of the game. And that's what's going to be. That's going to be the telltale sign. Last night was frightening coaching-wise for Notre Dame, and now the red flags are up. That was the coaches flat out lost this game for Notre Dame. There's no other way of putting it. You can point to this play here. That guy should have done that. Agreed. Coaching killed them. They were still in a position to win that game. The offense killed them. The defense killed them. It was a collective effort by that staff, and that is what's really discouraging. That's what's really discouraging. At least when Kelly was here, you could be like, oh, well, they physically pounded us, and you just knew you were nowhere close. What's frustrating about this is I didn't leave there being like, man, Ohio State's a lot more talented than us. Or, man, Ohio State is way more physical than us. It was just the opposite. It was we were more physical. We were dictating it, and we still took an L. And that is what's really, really frustrating. Is there anything else you guys want to add here? Because we're coming up on 50 minutes.
Well,
we're gonna get into Duke.
We had a lot to say here, so let's empty the tank.
What more are we gonna say that 100 other idiots haven't said?
Well, because good teams win ugly, and that's what Ohio State did last night. And
hats off to Ohio State.
Here's the other thing to bring up when we're talking about coaching is, and I said this before to you guys outside of this was the first game in how long where on paper Notre Dame went into this game with arguably better at the quarterback position than their opponent, just based on track record, playing time, and all that. And could Notre Dame have gone on the road and run with a young signal caller like that? I haven't seen that in the last couple of years. So there is a difference in coaching. The problem is it's the debate is who you assign the blame to and how you feel about it. But it's clear there's some on-the-job training here. And the next
10 players, 2 plays in a row is inexcusable. That's not on-the-job training. That should be something you're qualified with in order to get the job. Like, hey, if there's 10 players on the field on the last play and you're at the 1, do you jump off sides? If you say no to that, you shouldn't be hired. Okay, we're looking for someone else that's got brains.
Well, and I think it's safe to say, here's the other thing emotionally is, and this is a big part of coaching, Notre Dame was all in on this season. That's why they got Hartman. At the end of this season, there's going to be a lot of people walking out that door because of graduation, going to the draft. You're going to be looking at a considerably younger and different Notre Dame team.
Yeah, we're talking about next year now. Let's
no,
stay on.
We're talking about coaching, and what I'm saying is these next 7 games, become paramount because I don't think any of us thought Notre Dame was going undefeated. I fully expected Notre Dame to be able to beat Ohio State and maybe lose to USC and go down and give Clemson a game. Now, based on what I saw last night, I'm seeing 9-3 regular season, possibly 8-4, because I'm not writing Duke off as an automatic W.
Why are you writing Notre Dame off, though?
I'm
Yeah,
not writing them off. I'm resetting my expectation.
But you're lowering them. See, I picked Notre Dame to go 8-4, and now I'm thinking I'm way off. And if Notre Dame keeps up what they've been doing, I don't see them being worse than a 10-2. And you're right about the next few weeks.
You though now, because for everything that you just said last night, with all their deficiencies, and I don't patently disagree with anything you said, but you look at the rest of this schedule and you look at how our offense performs in big games, I got serious doubts.
Yeah, but Frank, in all fairness, Ohio State's back 7 is ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Oh, their 11 are ridiculous.
But
their 14 are ridiculous.
Totally agree. Totally agreed. We're talking about Hartman, though, so I'm going to put the defensive line. I'll take any defensive line versus our O-line, and I'm good with it. But as far as Hartman is concerned, he's going to be facing nothing like that the rest of the year. And same with the receivers. And that's what leaves me a little optimistic. And Notre Dame realized that, which I give them props, whereas Tommy would have kept throwing and BK would have been throwing even if it was a hurricane. And they're like, you know what? We need to just run the football here and just be there at the end.
Yeah, that's what I took from last night, the silver lining, especially looking forward to the rest of this year, because you're right. What do we do now? How do we finish this?
But that's not what we're supposed to be this
They
year.
want to run the football, and they want to be the more physical team, and that's new.
That's awesome.
We haven't had that, and you can hang your hat on that. You can go to Duke and win ugly. You can go to Louisville and win. That translates.
It does, but this is what we did last year because we had to, because we didn't have.
No,
But
way
he's
different.
still through.
It's Tommy Reese. It's way different. No, this
South
is not.
Carolina, dude.
This is a completely different offense.
I'm comfortable with Notre Dame trying to play every game in a phone booth because I think that's the way the school traditionally, their culture, regardless of who the coach is built on physically imposing your will running the football. However, you have a couple games on your schedule where you're going to have to be able to open your offense up and make plays downfield. And
why?
We're 5 games in, and I'm not seeing that. And that was supposed to be the big improvement over last year's offense. How many catches?
They're not going to face anyone that just stones them their run. It's not happening. Clemson included. They got problems.
Well, Mike,
Ohio State
for whatever
crumbled.
Reason, we stoned ourselves with our offensive game plan against USC last year. We ran for 90 yards.
That's Tommy Reese, man.
And here's the other thing. Do you really think you're going to go down to Clemson and you're going to replicate last year's production where we throw it 15 times for 80 yards and we
Yeah, Frank, because they got problems.
They're still loaded. They're still loaded.
They got scheme problems. They got problems on D. They're not just hammering people.
They've taken a step back since Venables left. There's no doubt. That defense has taken a step back.
They have, but it's still...
And their O-line leaves a lot to be desired.
And it's still Clemson on the road. That's a tough place to win. You don't pencil that in as a double.
Let's wrap this up because we're getting into all these other games. So, hey, cap it off. It was a good talk, Frank. It's nice of you to join us for once. If you can, get us the picks. We're going to try and drop a video this week with all of our Duke memorabilia. And then we'll have our pregame on Friday or Saturday morning with picks. For the few that are watching, I mean, listen to Mike. You're going to win some money. I wish Mike would listen to Mike. He'd win some money.
Yeah, it's a shame I don't gamble.
I said that to Danielle. I was like, yo, Mike's like 9-1, and he's not gambling right now. This dude's a nut.
The minute I put money on it, it's an L.
It's an L.
Exactly.
Don't put money on it.
I don't win at football games. Don't take my advice. It's just an opinion.
I had a good weekend. I'll leave you with that, other
All
than
right.
the ND loss. So, hey, go Irish. Beat Duke.